Greetings, nutrition students. This is our study session for exam number 3 for nutrition. So let's go ahead and jump into chapter number 13. So follow along with your study guide. So the health benefits of exercise are numerous, but we're going to list 3 here. Decreased blood pressure, increased HDL cholesterol, which is your good cholesterol. And number 3, reduced risk of osteoporosis. So those are just some of the benefits that we get from regular exercise. So what do endorphins do during exercise? Again, we're going to list 3 different things here. Number 1, they cause a natural euphoria. Euphoria is kind of like this good, satisfied feeling. So it's a natural euphoria. Again, your endorphins are these hormones that are being released. Number 2, they reduce stress. That's what we want. Yes, reduce stress. And number 3, they reduce the perception of pain, which is why you're able to continue to expound on your exercise routine or add more to it or do more reps, because over time it gets a lot easier for you. Okay, what are the components of a recommended exercise regimen? Regimen means program. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, number 1 is aerobic exercise. Number 2 is strength training, which would be anaerobic exercise. And number 3 are stretching routines. So definitely want to do that stretching routines. How many minutes per day should children spend exercising? 60. 1 hour per day, 60. Body glucose can be derived from what 3 sources? Number 1, stored glycogen. Right? Remember when our carbs break down our food, they store some of that away as glycogen. Number 2 is amino acids, which comes from your protein. And number 3 are dietary sources, directly eating that glucose in our diet. What are the functions of water during intense exercise? So during intense exercise, number 1, that water helps us to produce sweat, which is something we want to do. Produce sweat. That helps to cool off our internal temperature. Number 2, transporting oxygen and nutrients. So definitely it's a carrier. It helps carry that oxygen through our blood cells or up through our veins to the rest of our body. Number 3, it eliminates metabolic waste products. So it gets rid of the bad stuff that our body doesn't want or that accumulates, and too much of it is toxic for us. So it's getting rid of it or flushing that out for us. These are the 3 functions of water during intense exercise. All right, best priorities for post-competition meals in order to maximize performance. So post-competition, so after we've worked out or after our, a sports event, whatever it be. Let's see, to rehydrate and consume high amounts of carbohydrates and moderate amounts of protein. So high amounts of carb, moderate amounts or middle of the road amounts of protein. Right, carbs and endurance. Carbs and endurance. Endurance is greatest when the diet contains a higher proportion of calories from carbohydrates. So remember, we said you want a carb load. If you're gonna, run a marathon, you're gonna want a carb load so that you have endurance to last the entire length of the marathon with the energy you get from those carbs. So endurance is greatest when the diet contains a higher proportion of calories from carbohydrates. How to increase lean body tissue. So again, lean body tissue is muscle. Right? Muscle, and we want to increase this by lifting weights regularly. Lifting weights regularly. And again, women don't need to worry about bulking up. Our bodies are just not made that way. You have to really focus on to increase that muscle mass. So if you just lift some weights, it will not look, maybe you're concerned it's going to look unattractive. No, it's going to be really, really good for your health and your physical outlook. Chapter 14, jumping into kind of nutrition or infants and adolescents. Premature babies are classified as infants born at 35 weeks of gestation, or 35 weeks of being in mom's womb inside the uterus. So 35 weeks. Placenta function. What's the function of a placenta? What does it do? The placenta is this kind of, we saw a picture, it's this mass or organ that is used to transfer nutrients and oxygen from mom's maternal blood to the baby through a network of blood vessels. So it's kind of this transfer device that takes what I eat, the nutrients, and what mom eats, and gets it to the baby. Problems caused by hormonal changes during pregnancy. There's lots of them. But three that we'll mention here are: number 1, heartburn; number 2, constipation; and number 3, morning sickness. Heartburn, constipation, morning sickness. The risk of Down syndrome is correlated with what? So the risk of pregnant moms or moms trying to conceive of having a child with Down syndrome is correlated with maternal age at time of conception. So how old was mom when she conceived the child? Fat in infants' diet during the first 6 months. So fat is the macronutrient that contributes the most energy to an infant's diet. So meaning that this is what our infants need the most of. 6 months and under, they need lots of fat. Failure to thrive. Failure to thrive refers to the inability of a child's growth to keep up with the normal growth curves. So if it's a 6-month baby, there will be an average or a norm that most of those 6-month babies are weighing in at or growing in height at. And for a baby that has failure to thrive, they're well below. Well below. They're not keeping up with their age group. Formula-fed babies versus breastfed babies. Our babies receiving breast milk have fewer allergies, ear infections, and respiratory illnesses than those who receive formula. Allergies, ear infections, and respiratory illness. Water requirements during pregnancy. Extra water intake supports the needs of the fetus is number 1. Number 2, more water is required to provide for the amniotic fluid. So remember that baby is kind of living or swimming in this amniotic fluid. And number 3, higher water requirements supports the increase in blood volume. So because we have this new placenta and we have this growth going on, our blood needs to go more places than it used to. Right before, it just used to serve our cells and organs, and now it's serving 2 of us instead of 1 of us. So we need more of it. Right, chapter 15, the diet of American children. Most kids get too much saturated fat. Here in the West, our diet focuses heavily on protein, on animal diet, and on eating lots of beef and chicken and all that. And so our kids are eating a lot of that. Diet of typical older American children, so our teens or adolescents, the quality of diet worsens as they eat less fruits and drink less milk. So our teenagers, again, the quality of their diet worsens as they eat less fruit and drink less milk. Issues faced by obese children. Number 1 is going to be diabetes, a very concerning one, diabetes. Number 2 is discrimination. And number 3 is hypertension, high blood pressure, hypertension. Lactose intolerance. Number 1, it's a food allergy. It is a food allergy. Number 2, it is an allergic reaction to milk proteins. That's what's going on inside of the body. It's an allergic reaction to milk proteins. And number 3, it is classified as a food intolerance. Classified as a food intolerance. Children that do not eat breakfast are more likely to be hyperactive than those children that do eat breakfast. Food jag. is a period when a child will eat only one food and nothing else. Food jag, it's a time or a period when children will eat only chicken nuggets that are shaped like dinosaurs, chicken nuggets that are shaped like dinosaurs, and they don't want anything else, right? Snacks in teens. So snacks provide teens with about 25% of their energy intake or calories. So they need to have good, healthy snacks. Snacks provide about 25% of their energy intake, or we refer to it as kcals or calories. How to get kids to try new foods. So as a parent, what should you do to get your kid to try new foods? Offer the child the food, but not force them to try it. Offer it to them, and frequently. We said it takes like at least 10 times of being introduced or trying a food to actually like it. And so continue to offer the same foods, but don't force them. Vegetarian diet. Iron is the nutrient most likely to be deficient in a vegetarian diet. Iron. So again, they need supplements or they need to be getting the iron from other sources. Iron and vegetarian diet. Young children and the risk of choking. So we're talking about kids that are a year or younger. So a year or younger. You want to avoid foods such as carrots, hot dogs, and grapes, because all of those provide choking hazards. Right, chapter 16. Factors contributing to the rate of aging. So now we're talking about our older adults and nutrition. Number one is genetics. You know, all of us really don't have control over the families we're born into. And so there is this DNA or genetic component that has to do with kind of how we age. Number two is the environment. Definitely the area that we live in, if we're in a smog-polluted area, if we're in more rural, clean air areas, other types of toxins that we're exposed to in the environment. And the really big one, number three, that you can have an influence on is lifestyle choices. Lifestyle choices. So this refers to your choice to smoke, your choice to drink excessively, your choice not to exercise, your choice to consume high sugar foods every single day. These are choices that we make, and they influence how we age. A diet in fiber can help prevent and manage diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. So fiber is awesome for aging, right? It's good that you start consuming it as young as possible. You will age well, or better, I should say. But a diet that has a good amount of fiber in it can help prevent and manage diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. Food insecurity. Food insecurity describes a condition that occurs when a person is having difficulty acquiring enough food to meet their needs. Food insecurity. Aging contributes to, number one, changes in the abilities to taste and smell. So as we age, we lose some of this sensation or sensory nodules we have. So changes in the abilities to taste and to smell. Number two, changes in our immune function. We're no longer able to ward off disease like we used to before. And number three, periodontal disease or dental problems. Periodontal disease, dental problems. Changes in body composition. As we age, we can expect that our body fat increases and our bone density decreases. These changes naturally occur as we age past 50. Okay? So you can expect that, and that's why we need to change it, possibly our diet, how many calories we're consuming, and our exercise routines. Factors contributing to a better quality of life and better nutrition. Number one, a support system consisting of family and caregivers. So I want to make sure that we have a support system that consists of family and caregivers. Number two, intact dentures or teeth. If you still have your natural teeth, that's even better, but having dentures is even something that's good for you. And then number three, adequate income. Yeah, when we have money, life can be a lot easier. So adequate income. All right, decreased risk of fractured bones in older adults. Eating plenty of calcium-containing foods as a teenager will decrease your risk of fractured bones or osteoporosis, right? So we've talked about this a couple different times. I hope we kind of got it. As a young person, we need to consume calcium to put those deposits into a bank, because after the age of 35, our body no longer takes in deposits and it withdraws and takes out this calcium that we've saved up. And so we want to have a lot in the bank. Chapter 17, the use by date. What is the use by date on our food in the grocery store? It indicates the last day the product is likely to be at peak flavor, freshness, and texture. The last day the product is likely to be at peak flavor, freshness, and texture. Cross-contamination. So an example of cross-contamination would be wiping a soiled counter when you clean your kitchen countertop with a cloth, and then using the same cloth to wipe a cutting board that you have cut up meat or something like that, right? So you are now cross-contaminating these things. Salmonella-linked foodborne infection is common in foods such as eggs and chicken. Salmonella, eggs, and chicken. The greatest risk of foodborne illness, so foods that present the greatest risk of foodborne illness, examples would be a turkey that we thaw at room temperature. So I gave the example that if we thaw meat, we should thaw it by taking it out of the freezer, putting it into the refrigerator overnight, and using it the next for dinner or whatever it be. But we don't want to take things out and leave them directly on the counter. It's too quick of a meltdown for the food. Right, bacteria. True statements about bacteria. Number one, most environmental bacteria are harmless. Most environmental bacteria are harmless. Number two, bacteria are present on almost all surfaces in our home. Bacteria are present on almost all surfaces in our home. And number three, some bacteria are actually beneficial. Some bacteria are beneficial. Organic farming. So a couple statements about organic farming. Number one, organic produce can cause microbial-borne food illnesses. Organic produce can cause microbial foodborne illnesses. In other words, we can't expect that when we buy something organic in the produce department, it's going to be free of everything, of all bad stuff per se. Number two, organic farming is more ecologically sound than standard farming. When we say ecologically, we mean it is better for the environment. It is better for our earth and the environment. So it is more ecologically sound than standard farming. Number three, organic farming decreases but does not eliminate the use of pesticides in foods. Decreases but does not eliminate. Recommendations to limit pesticide residue. We're talking about fresh fruits and vegetables here. So recommendations to limit pesticide residue. Buy locally grown produce. Number one, buy locally grown produce. Number two, discard the outer leaves on lettuce and cabbage. Discard the outer leaves. Number three, wash or peel fruits to remove wax and surface pesticide residue. I hope we've talked about this too, the importance of understanding. Remember we talked about the dirty dozen, right? So I kind of showed you a listing of the 12 foods that we're most concerned about because they contain the most pesticides on them. Right, mold on food. Mold on food. So if we find mold on food, like a loaf of bread, what should we do? Should we cut out the moldy section and eat the rest? No. We said we should throw the whole thing away. Probably throw the whole loaf away. Right? So if mold is found on a loaf of bread, throw everything away. And again, refrigerating your food is going to slow down that decay process. Understand when we buy fresh baked bread instead of bread that has preservatives, we can expect mold to occur faster because we didn't put preservatives, which is a good thing. However, understand you need to refrigerate that bread because it is going to mold faster. Right, chapter 18, our final chapter. Childhood deaths due to undernutrition. Childhood deaths due to undernutrition. Worldwide, over 1/3 the deaths of our children under the age of 5 is due to undernutrition. 1/3 of the deaths of our children under the age of 5 is due to undernutrition, which is just sad. Just really heartbreaking. What is stunting? Stunting is decreased growth in height in children. Stunting, decreased growth, typically because of lack of nutrition or your body can't absorb it. So there's a problem. The greatest cause of food insecurity is poverty. When we're poor, food is a luxury. We just don't always get it. Products made from a renewable resource, right? Renewable means we can reuse. Renewable resource. Paper towels, bread, a wooden crate. These are 3 examples of products that are made from renewable resources. Biotechnology and food production. Biotechnology and food production. What we know is that if we were to discover things in the world of science and plants, biotechnology can increase food productivity by creating plants that are resistant to insects and disease, because then we'd have more food if we didn't lose so much of our crops to insects and disease. So biotechnology would be really useful if we could create plants that were resistant to insects and disease. Let's see, to conserve natural resources, what should we do to conserve natural resources? Number 1, purchase fewer individually packaged foods. In other words, buy in bulk. Shop at Costco, buy in bulk, right? No single packs of crackers or cookies for your kids in their lunch pail, right? Buy a big bag and then use, like I do, reusable baggies. I used to just have my kids, I used to use the regular baggies, Ziploc baggies or whatever, and then I would have them bring it back home. So they would just eat their snacks or food, they would shove the bag back in their lunch pail, and I would reuse it as long as I could. Right now I just buy the plastic bags that are reusable and I wash them out. Right, so fewer individually packaged foods. Number 2, purchase products that use minimal packaging. Have you ever opened something like from Amazon or somewhere and you're like, oh my goodness, this takes like a scientist to open. There's like 5,000 different things I have to cut and stuff. It's like you wonder, like, why are we using so much packaging for items? So purchase products that use minimal packaging. And number 3, reduce consumption of animal products. This is something we probably all need to work on because, like I said, it's kind of one of our Western norms here to eat a lot of animal products. So reduce consumption of animal products. WIC, what's WIC? Women, Infant, and Children. So WIC stands for Women, Infant, and Children. It's a federal program that targets pregnant or lactating women, nursing women, infants, and children for nutritional food assistance and education. We don't just want to give you food stamps or just give you the ability to go buy milk and eggs. We want to teach you how to make good food choices, which is what's really important. Right? So what are food deserts? Food deserts are areas in the United States, areas in the US that lack access to affordable foods which constitute a healthy diet. So they don't have, so we're usually thinking about downtown urban areas with lots of people and not a lot of farmers markets or fresh foods over there. And then they have high cost foods. And number 2, they don't have a bunch of fresh fruits and vegetables or things that are good for our diets. Right? Great, and I think that is it for chapter 18. So hopefully this will prepare you to take our last and final exam, number 3.